Hello and welcome to Wild Owl TV. I thought it was about time that I did a video diary in the garden. It's a really lovely time of year now. It's early September and the garden is sort of peaking now. Things are going over, but once we've got over that very harsh hot weather that we had in the summer, which was amazing, but of course the plants suffered quite a lot, and we've had a little bit of rain since then, not the last few days, but we've certainly had enough for them to start recovering. And so my butterfly area is, the butterfly garden as I call it, is now looking much nicer than it did a few months ago when it really was struggling. And as you can see, lots of colour from the cosmos. Well, let's just do a normal tour. Now the first thing I want to do is take you over to the pond, because as I've been just sat looking around the garden, I've been enjoying watching a dragonfly, and I actually think it's an emperor dragonfly. Haven't got very close to it yet. Or was it a southern hawker? No, there's a bit of blue on it. I think it's an emperor. So if I just see if I can zoom in, and dragonflies are just amazing insects, and this dragonfly is hunting over the pond for small insects, flies and things like that. Now I get 3 species of dragonfly on the pond most years. Yeah, I think it's an emperor. I get the southern hawker, the common darter and the emperor. I have also had an electric blue broad-bodied chaser dragonfly, but that one hasn't come regularly. But this dragonfly is a regular visitor, but it's usually in the later part of the summer, and they are amazing. I'm hoping if I stand still you might come close to me, but it's one of the jewels of the pond. They're just such beautiful insects. Had a wonderful bicycle safari yesterday. Thank you to everybody that came along. It was a really nice group of people, and I think we had some fun. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And I was telling little stories, as I always do, about when I was a boy. My cousin said to me that if you get stung by a dragonfly, you'll die. He told me that when I was about 7 years old, and I believed him. But of course, dragonflies don't sting, and you certainly aren't going to get killed by dragonflies. So yeah, they never stand very still. And I will keep my eyes open for a common darter because they're around. Now, you may remember that earlier in the year, when I did one of my earlier video diaries, I was saying that I was concerned about how few small frogs or even toads I'd seen at the end of the spawning season. I expected the tadpoles to metamorphosize into little toadlets and froglets and see them around the garden. I haven't seen that for a few years. However, after trying to help them this year by keeping some of the spawn to one side, I may or may not have made a difference. And I say that because I am now seeing young amphibians, but most of them are toads. And I certainly didn't come across any toad spawn. But let me show you. Hopefully I haven't looked under here for a couple of days. But this is where they usually are. And this time in the morning is about the right time for them to be seen under these sheets. Now, corrugated sheets in the garden are really valuable for amphibians and particularly for reptiles like the slow worm, because they warm up. You eventually get a bit too warm, but you can see the design of my pond here is such very important when you have a pond, that you have the main pond, you have wildlife margins, and I've actually put a wood pile in there to give them extra cover, and these amphibians can then crawl out of the pond and come into the cover. And you'll notice that I've left this area of grass around the beach, and then I cut this area, but I used to leave it, but it was a bit messy. But it does mean though that I do have a margin where these animals can come along the edge of here, which is also uncut, and then into the main nursery area. So let's have a little look, and I'm pretty confident. Now there are some ants' nests under here, which is another creature that's taking advantage of this area. And as you can see, ants are very, very busy. Now I'm just scanning my eye. Oh, I am seeing some movement under the grass. But it's possible that the ants are putting off the frogs and toads, and I'm not surprised. I don't think I'd want to be under here as well. But these are red ants, and as I say, there we go, they're underneath the sheet as well. So this is a thriving colony of ants, so you know, that's fine. Wouldn't be so good if I was having a picnic right next to them. Now hopefully this will be where the little toadlets particularly will be, so let's have a look under here. Come on. Oh, maybe I'm a bit early in the day. Well, that's very unusual. Most days I've looked under here, I've seen them. Never mind, all is not lost, because I do have another place where I can find them. But what they can do is come out from in here. This is where you go into the pond. Then crawl out here and go under the sheet. It might be that the sun's not come round enough yet for them. But I do have my toad cave, which is a fairly reliable place. You can guarantee as soon as I pick up the camera, all these things start to go wrong. This is my toad cave, and this is basically in the waterfall area. I haven't looked in here for a few weeks now. Let's have a little look. Anybody in there? No. Oh well. Never work with animals, they say. Well, I need to show you something, don't I? Now, I don't disturb this next sheet very often, because I just like to give the slow worm some solitude. But I'm pretty certain, as the sun is coming around now, that, and if there's nothing under here, you can sack me, all right? You can see this isn't planned. Let's have a look though, but he's pretty reliable, and sure enough, there he is, just there. That's my slow worm. And he is always under this sheet. And I'm not going to pick him up. He will actually just start to slide away once he realises he's been rumbled. This is a male slow worm, there he goes. So you can see he's living in the cavities under this area, and I've yet to see any babies. As you can see, he's beginning to move. Now I'm not keeping the camera on this, my eyes are wandering around and I'm looking at something, but surely that's not a baby slow worm. Oh, do you know, let's just focus on this guy here a second. But I'm looking at something there that seemed to move, unless that's my imagination. Never seen a baby slow worm, but I think I'm probably hallucinating. So as you can see, this slow worm is just disappearing. Now, yes! Oh no, it's a mouse! It was a mouse. Did you see that? It was a mouse's tail. Oh, that was hilarious. Oh dear. That, do you know what? You never know what's going to happen in this garden. I'll have to look at the video when I do, see if I can zoom in on that. But there was just this little thing that was moving, and I thought it was a baby slow. I thought, no, a mouse's tail. Oh, I've had that before. I've had a mouse's tail poking out the ground. I thought it was some sort of worm, and then suddenly his head pops out. That's hilarious. So we've got a slow worm and a wood mouse under that corrugated sheet. Now this water floor area is actually quite overgrown, but the water is flowing. Let's just have a little ganders under this sheet. This is another sheet I've put down. I put some grass down here as well. I'm not expecting anything, and nothing much has been under here. And again, it doesn't really get the sun until later in the day, so it's possible when that warms up, I might get some activity. So, let's take you around the garden. Now, this is the nursery area, And I say the nursery area because we've got a little pond in here, as you would have seen on previous videos, and this is where animals like the newtlets and the froglets can hide away, and they are now all starting to move around the garden. We'll have a look under here. There's a mouse's nest under here as well, actually. Let's see if anything's made it. No. Nothing under there. Could be a frog under here. No, nothing under there either. Just a slug. So that's the little nursery pond. But as you can see, this whole area really is brilliant for all sorts of animals that can just hide away, and the hedgehog may well be making a nest in there. I have to say though, once again, you may remember that I posted some videos of the hedgehog over in the corner there being harassed by the cat. Since that video, having seen that hedgehog on a regular basis, I haven't seen it. I've mentioned before, cats' claws have a very high bacterial level. If they scratch any animal, a bird or small animal, it can quickly lead to infection, and that can kill the animal. Now, I've no idea what the outcome is on that hedgehog, whether it's anything to do with the cat, but it is alarming, and you know, just a little bit of a coincidence that I see it being harassed and then we don't see the hedgehog anymore, so we'll never know. There is mice all over the garden at the moment in different places. This here is it's a shadier area, which isn't quite so appealing to the reptiles and amphibians, but it is an area where the wood mice live, and I think we have a fungus there. I don't think that's badger poo, is it? Looks like a fungus, doesn't it? That's interesting. I haven't seen that before. Let's find out what that is. So what we got under here? Nothing under here, but you can see there's a little hole there, and that'll be where the mice are coming and going. So I keep this sheet over them, and they scurry around here at night time. They do make a bit of noise in the dry leaves, so they're often, if predators get into the garden. But I've put an awful lot of fence around the garden, and I also have this area here, which is the main entrance point for the badgers and any unwelcome guests. And when I choose to, I can put a low voltage through that fence just to deter anybody that's not welcome, and it works. It's not something that I would talk too much about, but doesn't hurt anything, but it works. Let's just say that. So let's have a look over here then. The rowan looks like it's going to be coming into berry soon. I noticed that around the area a lot of the rowans have already started bearing their berries, and that's because of the very dry weather, and they're ahead of time, which could be an issue if we get a very cold winter over in the east and we get migrants coming in, because they'll come over to us looking for food, and if all of our trees have already shed their fruit, there's not going to be much for them. Now, this rowan has had watering, and that's why it's behaving normally, but I notice a lot around the area in the open spaces there's no well, they're all in bearing fruit at the moment. The honeysuckle is in fruit as well, and as I mentioned, we've got loads and loads of flowers, and of course perfect for butterflies. And this is wallflower here. Need to get in amongst the bindweed and start and pull some of that away, but the cosmos is really attractive to the bees. We've got wallflower, we've got the buddleia there, which is also very, very good, and a lot of borage. It's self-seeded, this borage. If you put borage in your garden, it's easy to manage, but it's also a good plant for bees. And you'll notice that in the borage over here we've got it's full of bumblebees. Really, really good plant for that. Okay, and what we got here? Oh, that's a speckled wood butterfly. That's a nice one. So the dragonfly is, let's see if we can show you that speckled wood. I just disturbed it as I came around the corner. It's one of the species of butterfly that I get in the garden. Oh, I just disturbed it again. Where's he going? See if I can follow it. Where are you? Beautiful. There's that dragonfly. They're stunning, aren't they? Where did that butterfly go? I'll disturb it again now. Incidentally, hello mate. Very inquisitive, these dragonflies. But this is the dragonfly pole, which of course is also the kingfisher pole. But this dragonfly chooses not to rest. But as you can see, he's spending all his time over the pond. Now, he's definitely eyeballing me. In the pond itself, you'll notice that we have... actually, I'm just going to wipe the lens on my screen. I can't see anything. This bright sunlight plays havoc when you're trying to look at the screen. A little bit better. Right. So in here, this is where we've got, well, there's a small selection of stickleback. Now, they seem to have a bit of white spot, which is a parasite. And I'm a little bit concerned about that. And there is something you can put into a pond that can deal with white spot, and I'm not sure whether to or not, apart from the fact it costs money. Seems to be an endless amount of money I'm spending for this garden. So at the moment I'm just going to weather it. I'm sure that, as with any natural population, they will adjust their numbers, because there is exceptional amounts of these dragonflies. There's a pond skater just down here. When we had the ducks, didn't see anything like pond skaters. It was quite noticeable how few insects were on the surface of the pond. And the minute they went, they all started coming back. Oh, you are beautiful, aren't you? I think that is an emperor dragonfly. Look at you, aren't you amazing? Coming right next to me. Okay, let's have a little look around. Just keep an eye open for that speckled wood, because you won't move very far away. A lot of wasps this year, as you notice. I haven't really had a massive uptake on the solitary beehives this year, on these bee tubes, but there is an uptake there. So hopefully we'll get an increased amount of them next year. It's better than it was last year anyway. A lot of these plants now are, as I say, suffering for the weather. The comfrey is, won't be long before I start to take that out, and I have to do some gardening soon. But that has been amazing, as it always is. I've been keeping my eyes open for a hummingbird hawk moth in the garden. And often it will land and rest on the comfrey and then go off, but I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen one of those yet this year, but they can be around up until mid-September. And so the weather forecast is quite nice for the next week. We've got a honeybee just here on the cosmos, and of course around the garden I've got this new CCTV system, so I've got cameras everywhere. Now that one there isn't doing an awful lot, but I've got another one here over the Badger Bowl, as we've seen. These are really good cameras, well, I've got them all over. This particular one here I've set up is because I've had a tawny owl coming into the garden, and that's set up on top of Jazz's aviary, so that if it does land on top of her aviary to bully her, we'll know. And of course we also have buddleia around the garden. Buddleia is a brilliant there's that speckled wood. There we go. I was about to say, buddleia is a brilliant plant for butterflies. That's why they call it the butterfly bush. And here you go, there's a speckled wood butterfly on the buddleia. So, you know, if you put these plants into your garden, you really will get the benefit of butterflies, and if you're lucky you'll get some specialities, because speckled woods are common in woodland but not so common in gardens. And I'm lucky I'm not too far from a woodland, but it's still a pleasure to have and a privilege to have this butterfly in the garden, because it is a very, very attractive species. And I'm in full zoom here on the camera. Quite lucky you got good camera here. And it's feeding on your buddleia. Now, as I mentioned to my crew on Sunday when we did the bicycle safari, we're very lucky around here. We've got lots and lots of buddleia around the quarry, and it's a Chinese weed but brilliant for butterflies. So you don't have to pay 10 quid in a garden centre to get Buddleia davidii, which is what this species is, although this particular one may be slightly, I'm sure that's a davidii. Davidii is quite purple. This one's a deeper purple, this particular bush, but around the garden I've got the same buddleias we've got knocking around. Well, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of plants around Chippensodbury Quarry and around that area, so you can go and buy one in a pot. Nothing wrong with that at all. Support your local independent garden centre, but otherwise, if you're a bit strapped for cash, just go out for a walk and pull one up somewhere. You'll pass hundreds of them on the way out to the high street. And the thing is about buddleia is that you can't kill them. They're just really, really hardy. Let me get a bit closer on this. Try not to fall in the pond. And of course buddleias are full of tiny little flowers, so the butterflies tend to stay on the flower head for quite a long time, because they're going in and out of all of the tiny little flower heads. So yeah, it's really, really nice. I'm sure if I get a bit closer I'm going to disturb it and try and hard not to step on any frogs or toads. It might be in the waterfall. It's quite confiding now. Focus, right? Oh, that's right. Hide behind the blooming flower, will you? And he's off. Beautiful. Really are an attractive butterfly, speckled woods. Really are. Oops, where are you? There you go. So we'll leave you in peace. I always, when I do these videos, I start doing the process and I thought, when I'm doing the production, I think, I forgot this and I forgot that. And I'm sat here now trying to think what it is I usually forget. One thing I would say is that so I'll come back on screen. This is owl prowl season just starting. Now, as it is at the moment, I've only got one owl prowl booked in. Now, I'm sure I will get others booked in, but at the moment I can't give you any dates for any, because I only do them when I get booked as a job. So if you'd like an owl prowl in local woodland, as long as you've got permissions to have the woodland, get in touch and I can give you details of owl prowls, because obviously Wobbly Bushes we did one last year, and that's possible we might do one. I didn't mention it to Paul yesterday when I saw him, Paul Harbert, but it's possible we'll do one there and possibly some other reserves, but it's something that hopefully we can do, and you'll have an opportunity to come out with me and see if we can find some owls. Just thought of something else that I've been doing is putting peanuts into this this bumblebee house, and the wood mice are coming in here all the time. And there's nobody in there this morning, but there's lots of remains of peanuts. So that's they live in the hedge, and they come along the hedge and then along this little thing here I put in and then jump in there. It's really quite lovely to see them. Okay, so it's still quite warm at the moment, so don't forget to keep your your water containers topped up. Now this one is empty at the moment, so I will top that one up, but of course I've got plenty of water around the garden. That's the benefit of having a pond. Haven't seen the bat up here. I've been having bats over the garden, but I haven't seen one coming from my window area, or indeed no sign of anything underneath the bat box, because if there was anything up there, the chances are I would find droppings here on the floor underneath, and there's been nothing there. So I'm sure they're probably occasionally roosting in that area, but for whatever reason they're not there again this year as they were last year. It was pipistrelle bats, but I do get them over the pond, and I get them over the garden every single night. Badgers, very infrequent. You never really can tell when they're going to come in, like I say, at the moment anything can turn up in the flower border area. It's that time of year when I'm surprised I haven't actually had any peacock butterflies. That's usually the ones that we get around about September, so I'm sure we'll be seeing them soon. But I haven't really had as many butterflies as I was hoping to. There was of course the common blue, which I wrongly described as a holly blue and was politely corrected. I don't know so much about all these other things as I do about owls, so I think I'm always open about that. I'm always happy to be corrected. So that's the way you learn. This is an area here which is a wildflower area, but it's a little bit tired now, but it still attracts hoverflies. Surprising actually, what you do find when you have these native plants, you do get a different mix of insects. I'm going to try under this here again. I'm kind of keen to show you a little baby toad. I don't expect that one would have crept in there so soon after putting this down. That's such a disappointment, because they really are the cutest little things. I'll have a look under here. Where are you? There is loads of them, unless they've moved on now. I moved around the garden, but they are just so lovely. They're just tiny, tiny little creatures. And this, as I say, this area is brilliant for them, and there certainly would be lots of them here. There is another area over here. I'm just going to have a quick look, and then I better wrap up, aren't I? Because I'm rambling on as I always do. How long have I been going for? Oh, I don't know. Too long as usual. Let's have a look. There could be little newtlets under here. I've had them in here before. Nope. 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 But you get the idea in terms of having these little... In terms of having these hideaways, now there we go, we've not a newtlet, this is actually an adult smooth newt or common newt. This is a, what we got here, is it a male or female? Oh, there you go, you see it's orange underneath, see if we can get there you go, orange underneath. So this is a male, and he no longer has his crest, because it's no longer the breeding season. And what he's done, he's actually left the pond. All right, darling. He's left the pond, and he has found cover around the garden. So he just dropped in. There you go. Let's see if we can. They're very wriggly, these newts. There you are. All right, darling. Getting attacked by a wasp now. So this is, as I say, a smooth newt. Now this is a tiny little creature, but you know, this garden is just wonderful. And this is what, as I mentioned before, and I'll put you back where I found you, mate. When you go in there, he'll crawl down in that little hole, and he'll be hiding underneath the logs. So I won't lift those logs anymore in case I squash him. But that just shows you again how the value of a wild area like this. This is, although it's a little bit of a distance away from the pond, that newt would have walked across the lawn possibly, or around the edges, and found his way into that area. And so, well, I found a slug, and look at all those mites on him. And that slug is hiding in the toad hole, but no toad. So yeah, I think we're going to finish now. Woodpecker pole, by the way, I say finish now, I'm just going to wrap up. Woodpecker pole isn't getting visited very often, but it's there ready to go. it's just probably just a time of the year. And on the bird front, oh, well, by the way, yeah, I did have some ladybirds around the this area here, and that was nice, but there seems to be a little lack of ladybirds around at the moment, which is really interesting. It's funny how these things come and go, isn't it? And the bird feeders, well, what's really nice is, now I've mentioned before about bird feeding. I say about the fact that you need to provide all sorts of types of food, and this is something that even I forget sometimes. I think, okay, I've got my sunflower hearts, got my peanuts for the badgers, but I put a few out for the birds. But sunflower hearts and fat blocks are the main things that I tend to use. However, I've recently bought some suet pellets, which I've put in here, and straight away I'm getting starlings in the garden. Starlings love suet pellets, so I thoroughly recommend suet pellets, because starlings are a species of bird that have been in big decline for a number of years, and anything we can do to help them is a good thing. But I've got my sunflower hearts there, and the sparrows have been really busy on those, and also on the fat blocks. Oh, that's me telling me I've got to go to work. Bear with a second, very timely. Yeah, you know, it's a very special time of year. So I'm going to finish off there. Hope you enjoyed that little video. Thanks for watching Wild Owl TV. Again, hopefully some new owl prowls to put up on my Facebook page that you can join me on, and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.